She was running barefoot from her father's farm until a cowboy caught up and swept her off her feet. The farm spread wide across the red-brown plain of frontier, 9, where the wind smelled of iron and dry grass. Fences made from old alloy posts ran for kilometers, and beyond them the land rolled toward low mesas under two pale suns. The farm looked simple from a distance: barns, water towers, a landing pad, and long fields of grain. But hidden in the soil were power cables and old sensors from the first days of the colony. Lyra's father, Jarek, liked to say the planet rewarded hard hands and quiet mouths. He worked like a machine and expected everyone else to do the same. Lyra had learned to fix irrigation drones, seed hoppers, and soil printers before she was 15. She knew the rhythm of harvest and the rules of the estate, but the rules had grown tighter every year, and lately her father watched her like she was a locked safe, not a daughter. Tonight, the last argument had cracked something inside her. She had stood in the kitchen with dust still on her sleeves, staring at the hollow contract projected above the table. Her father spoke with a flat voice, like the decision had already been sealed by the planet itself. "You will sign," he said. "The Warden's program offers protection. It is the safest way." "The safest way for who?" Lyra had asked. Her hands shook, but she kept her voice steady. "For me or for you?" His eyes were tired, and that tiredness scared her more than anger. For everyone on it. The contract was for a guardianship arrangement, a polite phrase for handing her over to a powerful off-world syndicate that claimed it kept frontier routes secure. They would sponsor her education and train her for a special role. In return, her father's farm would receive advanced equipment and protection. The syndicate's ships would watch the skies. Its soldiers would patrol the roads. Lyra had read enough to know what special role could mean. It meant control. It meant no choice. "I'm not property," she said quietly. Jarek's jaw tightened. "You don't understand what's buried under our fields." That was the sentence that haunted her as she ran now, barefoot and desperate, across the sleeping farm. She had escaped through the back corridor, past the utility lockers and the cold storage room, where humming machines kept seed stock alive for the next season. She had grabbed nothing but a small canteen and a worn jacket. Shoes would have slowed her. She knew every squeaky board and every camera angle. She moved like a shadow and slipped out through the service gate before the perimeter drones could focus on her face. The first minutes were easy. The wind covered the sound of her footsteps. The night hid her from the farmhouse lights. But as she reached the outer fields, the world turned rough. Dry stubble scratched her feet. Sharp stones cut at her heels. Still she kept running, breathing hard, heart hammering with fear and excitement. For the first time in a long time, the planet felt open. Lyra didn't have a clear plan. She only knew she had to get away from the landing pad, away from the contract, away from the life that had been decided for her without asking. Beyond the farm lay the open range, old ranch roads, scattered homesteads, and small trading posts where travelers came and went. If she could reach a town, she could disappear into the frontier traffic. She could find work on a freight crew or a survey team. Anything, anywhere. Behind her, a quiet tone rose from the farm's alert system. A thin, distant beep, like a bird calling in the dark. They had noticed. Lyra pushed harder, crossing an irrigation channel and climbing a low ridge that overlooked the valley. She paused for one breath and looked back. The farmhouse was a cluster of warm lights, peaceful from here. Then a pair of search drones lifted from the barn roof, their small engines whispering as they spread out like hunting insects. Blue scanning beams swept across the field. Lyra's stomach dropped. She turned and ran down the other side of the ridge, heading toward the wide plain where long grass waved under starlight. If she stayed low, the drones might miss her. The frontier taught people to hide. Her father had taught her that much. Far away, a different light moved along the horizon, a slow, steady glow near the old cattle lanes. It wasn't a farm drone. It was larger, like a vehicle. Lyra ran toward it because it was the only other sign of life in the dark. The glow came from a trail rover, low, broad, with thick tires and a canopy frame. It moved with patient confidence, as if it belonged to the open land. Behind it, shapes moved in a loose line. At first, Lyra thought they were animals. Then she realized they were livestock, bio-cattle bred for the thin air and strange grass of frontier. 9. Their backs were high, their horns curved, and small tracking tags blinked at their necks. A rancher was out here at night. And on the frontier, ranchers didn't travel alone unless they could handle themselves. Lyra slowed, keeping her distance. The rover stopped, and the person driving it stood up on the running board, scanning the dark. He was tall, wearing a long duster coat and a wide hat with a dusty brim. A rifle rested across his saddle rack, not an antique, but a modern pulse carbine shaped like old Western steel. A small drone hovered above his shoulder, its lens glinting. The man looked like the stories Lyra had heard in trading posts. A space cowboy, the kind who moved between planets with the seasons, driving cattle from moon to moon and selling meat and gene stock to whoever paid. He turned his head, and his drone swept a light over the grass. The beam caught Lyra's face. She froze. For half a second, nobody moved. The man didn't raise his weapon. He simply studied her, calm and unreadable, like someone deciding if a storm was worth worrying about. Then he spoke, voice low and steady. "You lost, miss?" Lyra tried to speak, but her throat was tight. She heard the distant hum of the farm drones behind her. Panic rushed back. "Please, I just need to get away." The man stepped down from the rover. He moved with easy balance, boots silent in the grass. Up close, he looked older than Lyra at first guessed, maybe late 20s or early 30s. His face was sun-worn, his eyes sharp. A thin scar ran along his cheek, pale under the starlight. He didn't come too close, as if he knew fear made people unpredictable. "Name's Cole," he said. "You got folks looking for you?" Lyra nodded, unable to lie. "My father." "His drones." Cole glanced toward the ridge. In the far distance, blue beams swept across the plain. He exhaled through his nose, thoughtful, not surprised. "Frontier. 9 farms don't launch search drones for a late-night walk." I couldn't stay." Cole's gaze returned to her bare feet. Blood dotted the ground where she stood. "You're hurt." "It's nothing," she insisted, though the sharp sting said otherwise. Cole hesitated, then made a decision. "All right. Come on." He nodded toward the rover. "I've got water and a med kit. We'll get you patched up, then you can tell me what kind of trouble you're in." Lyra took one step toward him. The earth tilted. Her legs, running on fear for too long, suddenly failed. The world spun, and she stumbled. Cole moved fast. He caught her before she hit the ground, one arm strong around her back, the other steadying her shoulders. For a moment, Lyra felt the solid warmth of his coat and the steady strength of someone who didn't panic. The phrase "swept her off her feet" flashed through her mind in a strange, almost funny way, because that was exactly what it felt like, her feet leaving the ground as he lifted her. "Easy," Cole murmured. "You're done running for a minute." Lyra should have pushed away. She should have demanded distance. But exhaustion flooded her, heavy and real. She clutched his sleeve like it was a rope. Cole carried her to the rover and set her carefully on the seat. He handed her a canteen. "Drink. Small sips." She obeyed, the water cool and clean. Her hands shook as she drank. Cole knelt and opened a storage compartment, pulling out a compact med kit. He gently took her foot in one hand, inspecting the cuts without judgment. "You've been running hard," he said. "I had to," Lyra whispered. Cole cleaned the cuts with a spray that stung, then applied a sealant that cooled the skin. He wrapped both feet with flexible bandage strips that hardened slightly to protect from more damage. His movements were practiced, quick and careful. "Better?" he asked. Lyra nodded. Her breathing slowed a little. She looked at the cattle behind the rover. They watched quietly, blinking, their tags glowing faintly. Beyond them, the plain stretched into darkness and stars. Cole stood, scanning the horizon again. The farm drones had moved closer. Their beams sliced through the grass, searching. Cole's jaw tightened. "Those drones are on a wide sweep." Lyra's fear returned in a wave. "If they find me, he'll take me back." Cole looked at her. "What happens if you go back?" She pictured the contract on the table, the syndicate's emblem, the words that sounded polite but felt like chains. "He's giving me to off-worlders," she said, voice small. "He says it's for safety, but it's not my choice." Cole's eyes narrowed slightly. "Off-worlders from where?" "I don't know the real name," Lyra admitted. "People call them the Warden's Circle. They control routes. They protect farms that pay." Cole's expression turned colder. He didn't say anything for a beat, but something changed in his posture, like a gate closing. "All right," he said finally. "Here's what we're going to do. You're going to help me?" "I'm not handing you over to anyone," Cole said. "Not without knowing the whole truth, and not if you're asking for help." A soft beep came from Cole's shoulder drone. It projected a small map in the air, showing the search pattern of the farm drones. Cole's rover and cattle were marked as a moving cluster. They'll scan this zone in 4 minutes, Cole said. We can't sit here. Lyra's heart pounded again. Where will we go? The engine purred, low and strong. I've got a ranch ship parked in the canyon ridge. Old mining tunnels nearby block most scans. We'll get you there. Then you decide your next step. Lyra gripped the edge of the seat as the rover rolled forward. The cattle moved with it, guided by Cole's signals. The night wind rushed past, cool against her face. Behind them, a search beam swept over the ridge. Cole didn't speed like someone running blindly. He drove like someone who knew the land, taking dips and gullies, using the terrain like cover. The rover's light stayed dim, barely more than a glow. The cattle followed, their hooves thudding softly like distant drums. Lyra glanced back once and saw a drone hover where she had been standing, scanning the grass, confused. It paused, then turned, drifting closer. Cole touched a control on his wrist. A small decoy flare popped from the rover's rear, arcing toward the left. The drone's sensors locked onto it and drifted away, chasing the false signal. Lyra stared at him, amazed. How did you... Old habit, Cole said. Frontier is full of eyes. As they neared, the land rose and narrowed into a rocky pass. The wind here was sharper, carrying the smell of stone and cold metal. Faint lights flickered between boulders, old mining markers, long abandoned. Cole steered into the pass and the signal hum behind them faded, muffled by rock. Lyra released a breath she didn't know she was holding. Her hands were still shaking, but now there was something else beneath the fear. Hope, small and risky, like a match in the wind. Cole glanced at her. You said your father told you something's buried under your fields. Lyra's stomach tightened. Yes. Cole's voice stayed calm, but his eyes were alert. What did he mean? Lyra looked ahead into the dark canyon, where the stars narrowed into a strip above them. I don't know, she admitted. But I think it's why they want me. And why he's so scared. Cole nodded once, as if that confirmed a suspicion. The rover rolled deeper into the canyon, and in the distance, hidden between stone walls, a larger shape waited, like a sleeping beast. A ship, not sleek like a military craft, but rugged, patched, and built for survival. It sat on landing struts beside a cluster of storage crates and solar tarps. It looked like a moving ranch house, with tool racks and cargo rails. Cole guided the rover toward it. Lyra's heart beat hard again, but this time it wasn't only fear. It was the feeling of crossing a line that could not be uncrossed. Tonight she had run barefoot from her father's farm. And now, in the arms of a cowboy who chose to help instead of judge, she was heading toward the unknown, where the truth under the fields might be waiting, and where her life might finally belong to her. The ranch ship rested between the canyon walls like an old animal that had chosen a quiet place to sleep. Its metal hull carried scars from long journeys, but the lights glowing along its side felt warm and welcoming. Lyra watched silently as Cole guided the rover closer, the cattle moving behind them in slow, calm lines. As soon as they stopped, Cole jumped down and secured the herd using remote signals from his wrist console. Small drones floated from the ship, guiding the animals toward feeding stations. The entire process looked smooth and practiced, as if he had done it alone for years. Lyra climbed down more carefully. The bandages on her feet helped, but she still felt every step. The canyon wind brushed her hair across her face, carrying dust and the faint scent of fuel. "This is your home?" she asked quietly. Cole nodded once. "When I'm not traveling, yes." He lowered the ship's ramp, and soft light spilled onto the ground. Inside, the ship looked more like a small ranch house than a spacecraft. Wooden panels covered parts of the walls, and tools hung neatly beside advanced consoles. There were maps of star routes, old photographs of distant planets, and shelves filled with mechanical parts. Lyra stepped inside slowly, unsure whether to feel safe or nervous. Everything about the place felt real, lived in, and honest. "Sit," Cole said, pointing toward a bench near a small table. "I'll get you something to eat." Hunger hit her suddenly, reminding her she had not eaten since early afternoon. Cole returned with a warm bowl of simple stew and a cup of water. He placed them in front of her without saying anything dramatic, just a quiet gesture of care. He shrugged. No one runs barefoot across a frontier plain unless they really need help. Lyra ate slowly, feeling strength return with every bite. Cole leaned against a nearby counter, watching a small screen that displayed the canyon entrance and nearby drone activity. "They stopped scanning near the ridge," he said finally. "Looks like they lost your trail." Lyra exhaled, relief washing through her, but the feeling didn't last long. They won't stop looking, she said. My father never gives up. Cole studied her carefully. Tell me about him. Lyra stared into her cup, thinking about where to begin. He wasn't always like this. When I was younger, he laughed more. He taught me how to repair machines and ride the farm bikes. But after my mother died, he changed. Everything became about protection, about control. And the off-world group? Cole asked. The Warden's Circle, she said quietly. They contacted him months ago. At first he refused. Then he started meeting them secretly. He told me it was necessary. Cole's jaw tightened slightly. They're not good people. You know them?
I've crossed their routes, he replied.
They call themselves protectors, but mostly they collect debts, and once they decide someone belongs to them, it's hard to walk away. Then I made the right choice. Cole nodded slowly. Maybe. But choices on the frontier always bring consequences. She looked at him. Why help me? You don't even know me. Cole didn't answer immediately. He walked to the front window and looked out at the canyon, where the twin suns were beginning to rise, turning the rocks gold and orange. Because someone helped me once, he said finally, when I needed it. That's enough reason. Lyra felt warmth in his words, but also sadness. She wondered what kind of past he carried. After eating, she walked slowly around the ship, curiosity pulling her forward. She saw navigation panels, storage compartments filled with supplies, and a small sleeping area that looked comfortable but simple. Everything had a purpose. You travel alone? She asked. Mostly, he replied. Doesn't it get lonely? Cole gave a small smile. Sometimes. But the stars keep you company. A sudden alert beeped from the console. Cole moved quickly, activating a screen that displayed a faint signal moving across the map. What is it? Lyra asked. A ship, he said. Small. Not from your farm. The Warden's Circle? Maybe, Cole replied. Or someone else who picked up your trail. Lyra felt fear rise again. She had hoped reaching the canyon meant safety, but the frontier never stayed quiet for long. Cole adjusted several controls, lowering the ship's energy signature. Lights dimmed slightly, and a camouflage field shimmered faintly outside the window. They won't see us easily, he said. But we shouldn't stay here too long. Where will we go? She asked. He turned toward her. That depends on you, Lyra blinked. On me? You're the one running, Cole said gently. You need to decide if you want to hide, fight, or find the truth about why they want you. She thought about her father's words again. You don't understand what's buried under our fields. I want answers, she said quietly. I don't want to spend my life running. Cole nodded, as if he respected that choice. Then we start by figuring out what makes you so important. Lyra hesitated. There's something else. She rolled up her sleeve, revealing a faint pattern glowing softly under her skin. It looked like lines of light moving slowly, almost like circuits. Cole stared, surprised but calm. How long has that been there? Since I was a child, she said. It appeared after I fell into one of the old excavation pits on our land. My father told me never to talk about it. Cole stepped closer, examining the faint glow without touching. That looks like alien tech resonance. Lyra swallowed. What does that mean? It means, he said carefully, you might be connected to whatever is buried under your farm. The ship trembled slightly as a distant engine passed overhead. Both of them froze. Cole quickly switched the external cameras to full view. A sleek black vessel moved across the sky, scanning the canyon edges. Its design was sharp and cold, nothing like a trader or rancher's ship. Lyra's breath caught. That's not my father's. No, Cole said quietly. That's professional. And it moved on, disappearing beyond the canyon wall. Cole exhaled slowly. We need to move soon. Fear returned, but this time Lyra also felt determination. She was tired of being chased without understanding why. I want to go back, she said suddenly. Cole raised an eyebrow. Back to your farm? Yes, she said. Not to surrender, to learn the truth. Finally he nodded. All right, but we do it smart. No rushing into traps. Lyra felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. For the first time, she wasn't just running away. She was choosing a direction. Cole began preparing the ship for departure, moving with efficient speed. The engines hummed to life, low and steady. Outside, the cattle settled into transport bays designed to keep them safe during flight. Lyra stood near the window, watching the canyon slowly brighten as morning arrived. She thought about her father, about the life she had left behind only hours ago. She wondered if he was worried or angry or both. "You still care about him?" Cole said quietly, noticing her expression. "I do," she admitted. "Even if I don't agree with him." "That makes things harder," he said. "Yes," she replied. "But maybe it also makes things worth fixing." The ship lifted gently from the ground, rising between the canyon walls. As it climbed toward open sky, Lyra felt her heart race again. She wasn't just escaping anymore. She was heading toward answers, and whatever secret lay buried beneath her father's farm. And beside her stood a cowboy who didn't try to control her path, only walked beside her as she chose it. The farm looked smaller from the sky than Lyra remembered. Cole guided the ranch ship slowly through the clouds, keeping its systems quiet to avoid detection. The twin suns hung low on the horizon, painting the fields gold and red. From above, the land looked peaceful, but Lyra knew better. Beneath the soil lay secrets, and somewhere below, people were searching for her. She stood beside the cockpit window, arms folded tightly, watching the familiar shapes of barns and fences grow larger. Memories rushed back, long mornings repairing machines, evenings sitting on the porch with her father, and the moment she ran away without looking back. "Last chance," Cole said gently. "We can still turn around." Lyra shook her head. "No, I need to face this." The ship dipped lower, sliding toward a narrow canyon near the edge of the property. He landed behind a cluster of rocks, far from the main buildings where old mining tunnels once opened into the earth. As the engines powered down, silence filled the cabin. Lyra's heart pounded. She wasn't the same person who had run barefoot across the fields. Fear still lived inside her, but now it walked beside determination. "We go carefully," Cole said. He checked his equipment but carried it loosely, not like someone expecting a fight, just someone prepared for danger. "Stay close." They stepped outside into warm wind and dusty air. The ground felt strange under Lyra's feet even through the protective boots Cole had given her. Every step felt like walking into a memory. The farm was alive with activity. Drones hovered near the barn. A transport ship rested on the landing pad, sleek and dark, unfamiliar. Lyra's stomach tightened. "That's theirs," she whispered. Cole followed her gaze. Warden's Circle. They moved along the edge of the canyon, using tall grass and old fence lines for cover. As they approached the main fields, Lyra noticed something new. Small metal markers planted in rows across the soil. They glowed faintly, connected by invisible energy lines. "What are those?" Cole asked. "I've never seen them before," she said. They reached a low ridge that overlooked the farmhouse. Voices carried through the wind. Lyra froze when she saw her father standing near the porch. He looked older than she remembered, shoulders heavy with worry. Two strangers stood with him, dressed in dark uniforms marked by silver symbols. One of the strangers gestured toward the fields, speaking in a calm but firm tone. Lyra couldn't hear the words, but her father's posture told the story. Resistance, anger, fear. "They're pressuring him," Cole said quietly. Lyra swallowed hard. He said he was protecting the land. Maybe he was trying to protect me. A sudden movement caught their attention. One of the warden's soldiers turned toward the ridge, scanning the area. Cole gently pulled Lyra down behind the grass. "We can't stay hidden forever," he murmured.
"What's your plan?"
Lyra took a deep breath. I talked to him. Face to face, Cole studied her expression. After a moment, he nodded. "Then, we do it your way." They walked openly down the hill. The moment they stepped into clear view, the soldiers reacted. Weapons lifted, though not fired. Lyra raised her hands slightly, showing she meant no harm. Her father turned. For a moment, time stopped. "Lyra!" His voice cracked with relief and anger mixed together. He rushed forward, stopping only a few steps away. "You shouldn't have run. You were going to give me away." His face hardened. "You don't understand what they're capable of." "I understand enough," she replied. "But I want the truth." One of the warden's representatives stepped forward, smiling politely. "Miss Lyra, we are pleased you returned. Your presence will help finalize our agreement." Cole shifted slightly closer to Lyra but said nothing. Lyra ignored the man and focused on her father. "You told me something is buried under our fields. What is it?" Jarek hesitated, glancing at the strangers beside him. Fear flashed in his eyes. "Tell her," one of the representatives said smoothly. She deserves to know. I want to hear from him. Her father sighed heavily. Years ago, before you were born, survey teams discovered an ancient alien structure beneath this land. Not just ruins, a living system. It can change the soil, control climate, maybe even create new ecosystems. I kept it secret because powerful people would try to take it. Lyra's breath caught. And me? You fell into an activation chamber as a child, he said quietly. The system responded to you. It marked you as a user. That's why they want you, not for who you are, but for what you can unlock. The glowing pattern on her arm pulsed faintly, as if responding to his words. The warden's representative smiled wider. With our guidance, Miss Lyra can unlock the full potential of this world. Imagine the prosperity. Lyra turned toward him, eyes sharp. And who controls that prosperity? Me? Or you? The man's smile didn't fade, but his silence answered her. Cole stepped forward slightly. Sounds like ownership disguised as help. The soldiers shifted, tension rising. Hira faced her father again. Why didn't you trust me with the truth? Jarek's shoulders sagged. Because I was afraid. I thought if I controlled your future, I could keep you safe. She stepped closer, her voice gentle but firm. You can't protect me by taking away my choice. For a long moment, father and daughter stood in silence. Finally, Jarek nodded slowly. You're right. The warden's representatives exchanged glances, their patience thinning. I'm afraid sentiment doesn't change contracts, one of them said coldly. The agreement stands. Fear fluttered in her chest, but she refused to let it control her. No, she said clearly. It doesn't. The glowing pattern on her arm brightened. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet vibrated softly. Energy lines across the field lit up, responding to her presence. The alien system awakened, reacting to her decision. The soldier stepped back, surprised. Lyra felt warmth flow through her, not painful but powerful. She sensed the network beneath the soil, alive and waiting. I won't let anyone use this against people, she said. Not even you. She focused on the feeling, and the energy markers shut down one by one, breaking the warden's control over the site. Their equipment sparked and went dark. Cole watched, impressed but calm. The representatives' confident expressions faded. Without control of the system, their leverage vanished. This isn't over, one of them warned, signaling their soldiers to retreat. Their ship lifted from the landing pad minutes later, disappearing into the sky. Silence returned to the farm. Lyra turned toward her father. Tears filled his eyes, but this time they carried pride instead of fear. You're stronger than I realized, he said quietly. I'm just finally choosing for myself, she replied. And I'll try to learn how to let you. Cole stood nearby, giving them space. When Lyra looked at him, he offered a small, warm smile. What now? He asked. Lyra looked across the fields, her home, her past, and the future waiting beyond the horizon. I want to protect this place, she said, but I also want to see the stars. Cole chuckled softly. Sounds like you don't have to choose just one. She smiled back, feeling lighter than she had in years. The wind moved gently across the farm, carrying the promise of change. Lyra had run barefoot into the unknown, been caught by someone who respected her freedom, and returned stronger than before. And as the sun set over the frontier, she knew this wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of a life she would finally choose herself.